Hey everybody, welcome to the last episode of season 1 with Essentially Sports Think Tank. Super excited to have the Griffin sisters on today. Can you talk to us a little bit about the strategy behind revamping the game day experience?
Certainly football performance plays a huge part in that, but the root of it, Trey, is creating an unbelievable home field advantage for our football team. Full stands, incredible energy, loud fans, with something great to cheer for.
So, Erin, as sports become more global and football is becoming more global, how does Riddell get involved with that? How do you guys do that?
Yeah, that's something I've kind of taken on as a personal charge here, is taking Riddell global beyond looking at it as a sales strategy and more holistically as a brand strategy abroad. The game of football is entering the Olympics. So what does Riddell do to kind of make sure we get our rightful share of voice?
Well, super excited for those Olympics. I know they're a couple of years out, but that is going to be amazing to see football there. So Emily, your work on the Barry Sanders Monument was a huge success. How did you approach that entire process?
It was really a tremendously fulfilling experience personally and professionally, and for everyone in the Detroit Lions organization to be a part of. Barry is a really amazing human being.
Hey everybody, welcome to the last episode of season 1 with Essentially Sports Think Tank. Super excited to have the Griffin sisters on today. Emily Griffin is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Brand for the Detroit Lions. And Erin Griffin is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Riddell. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, you're both in marketing and communications and everything. Were your parents involved in marketing, or how did you both end up in the same career?
I'll let you go first, Erin.
Yeah, I think maybe the career discipline was by choice and by happenstance. I think maybe just our interests took us in that way. But I'd say our passion for sports and football was ingrained in us from a young age through our family. And so it's not surprising that we made our way into the sports industry, I would think.
Yeah, we both played competitive soccer as kids, and our family loved football, watched football all the time. Both of our parents went to Alabama. Our grandfather, uncle, lots of family members went to Notre Dame. So there was always football in the house, Saturday, Sunday. And that's just how we were raised.
So are you both Alabama fans?
I follow Alabama. Erin's a go Irish till she dies fan.
Yeah,
well, I live with what's that?
I always say 1 and 1A. Notre Dame's my 1, and my 1A is Alabama. So then chances are, someone's doing pretty well if you have two teams.
Well, I live with an Alabama fan, so my wife went to Alabama, my in-laws went to Alabama, and definitely been to a bunch of games there. So special place for sure. So Emily, we'll start with you. You've been with the Lions now for I think almost 10 years. Would love to hear your journey there and how you got to the Lions and what you're doing there today.
Yeah, so I've spent my entire career in Detroit. Born and raised here, have always been an avid Detroit sports fan. Started my career with the Detroit Pistons and spent 3 seasons in the NBA working with their sponsors. So some of their biggest sponsors across the Palace of Auburn Hills, the team itself, and a couple of entertainment venues that they previously owned, and got an incredible look into sports business across the board, activating partnerships, but felt at the time that I was getting great traditional experience, but not exposing myself and really flexing the muscle in the digital, mobile, social space, knowing that that's, where brands were heading at that time. So I left and joined which is a company that's now called Merkle, was ePrize at the time, a full service digital marketing agency that worked with brands and like 27 different verticals to activate primarily their sports sponsorships in the digital space. So using emerging technologies, social platforms, mobile apps to reach consumers where they were spending time. And then about 10 years ago, the Lions were hiring somebody to come in and be a strategist on the digital, mobile, and social side for their partners. So that was a perfect marriage of really my two pieces of experience. And I did that for a year. We had some good success. The Lions made some leadership changes, and I was very eager to take on more. Saw a lot of opportunity within the organization, a lot of low-hanging fruit, pardon the overused expression, and took on the role as VP of Marketing. I did that for 8 years. Was elevated into my current role, where I oversee all of our digital and digital content production and distribution, game entertainment, all consumer and brand marketing for the stadium and the team. And it's been a great journey. Lots of ups and downs, as there always are in sports, but we're really happy about where we are with the brand now.
Certainly a great time to be a Detroit Lion. I think they're taking over the Cowboys as America's team lately. Of course, Cowboys have been pretty futile, but it's pretty amazing to watch what's happening in Detroit.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We'll take that label any day.
Yeah, we actually just did a Brand Innovators event at the Detroit Pistons Performance Center there, and it was pretty amazing. It was fun to watch everybody go try to shoot 3-pointers afterwards.
Oh yeah,
that line's pretty far.
Right, we do the same thing here. We have people attempt field goals, and you'd be surprised. They going in or extra points. They think it's so easy until they take their own crack at it. But yeah, that's fun.
No question. Well, Erin, talk to us about your time at Riddell. I mean, Riddell's always clearly doing all kinds of things groundbreaking when it comes to equipment and following what's happening with concussions and football and everything else. Love to hear about your journey as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So we'll first fact, we'll inform the listeners here. So we pronounce Riddell. So as a communications leader, that is one thing that I lead the charge around. I can't commit that all of our employees pronounce Riddell correctly, but I'll at least, do my part today. But not unlike Emily, I actually started in sports, followed by passion in football, and worked in arena football and worked with Deion Sanders, who was one of our owners, but then also did go get kind of that broader communications and sports marketing experience on the agency side, and then really decided it was time to blend my passion, which is sports and football, with my career, which is marketing and communications. And that brought me to Riddell in 2012. So I'll have been at the company 13 years in January. And really, I've seen a transformation, not only our brand and our company standing, but also the game of football over that time. And Riddell has done a lot to address the evolving needs of players as well as the broader football community. And that's something I'm really proud of. And I think everyone that works at the company, whether you're watching on, a Friday or Saturday at the lower levels of the game to, your elite college program, to the NFL on Sundays, our product is used. And that's something that, again, we're very proud of at the company.
Awesome. Well, thank you for correcting me on the enunciation. So certainly apologize for that. So, Emily, under your leadership, the Detroit Lions have topped the NFL's game entertainment rankings. Can you talk to us a little bit about the strategy behind revamping the game day experience?
Yeah, this has been something that, we've been efforting towards since 2016, and certainly football performance plays a huge part in that. But the root of it, Trey, is creating an unbelievable home field advantage for our football team. Full stands, incredible energy, loud fans, with something great to cheer for. That's the full circle, the topic for us is really how do we make sure that this is an intimidating place to play for opponents, because ultimately helping to drive our team to success is our number one priority and number one, payback for our fans and for our business. So we've really looked at everything. I think we have focused a ton on graphics, music, every little detail, and we have belabored details, and really with the hope that they would all add up to a firm product and a final product, and really we have done that. So part of what we focus on is entertaining, engaging, informing. We sort of balance those three things. We have an incredible show caller and our executive director of content production, Jeremy Smoker, who's leads our content team as well as our game entertainment team, creating synergy between the content we produce for our social and our digital channels, and bringing that in stadium, making sure that every moment is energetic, and that we also integrate with our sponsors really authentically. So anything that they want to do and want to present to our fans is done in a way that doesn't draw back from the fan experience, but rather, integrate seamlessly with it. So we've done some very innovative things. Something that we are really proud of is our integration of PixMob LED wristbands that you've probably seen. And when we hosted 2 playoff games last January and a couple of our primetime games this year, we've done some incredible things to really add a light show to our game day experience that feels like no one else has done. So we're proud of that. But really, at the end of the day, like I said, it's about home field advantage, about noise and energy, and propelling our team to victory.
That's amazing. I've got to get to a game up there. I almost went a couple weeks ago, and I upset I didn't make it in there, but hopefully sometime in the future.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Bring your earplugs.
So,
yeah.
What's that?
It's a good thing you know someone.
Yeah, for sure. So, Erin, when we talk about Riddell, really think about innovation in that space with technology, and you're constantly having to communicate that out there. What do you do when you think about the way the helmets have changed? You've got to kind of balance what the legacy of the equipment is versus the innovation. Talk to us a little bit about how you balance that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it boils down to our mission has always been improving athlete protection. And so even though we're a 95-year-old company, that's always been the company's mission. And so when you look at today, we are leaning into that leadership and legacy, but also being very forward looking and utilizing our voice within the game and track record of bringing innovative products to the field, first of their kind type products, and being a brand and a company that people can count on. They know when they get a Riddell helmet, the next generation helmet is going to be better than the one before it. And so, that's just been our commitment through our entirety of our company. And I think specifically around innovation, you've seen us really, put those efforts in, particularly in the last 20 years or even the last 10, where the pace of innovation and football protective equipment has accelerated tremendously. And so there's things that we've never been able to do before and the industry has never seen, just because new materials or design principles have been incorporated. And so, again, I think that's just rooted back into our mission, and it's a position from a leadership standpoint that we take very seriously.
No, that's amazing. I played football, of course, a long time ago now, and I've got a boy that's about to turn 8, and he's ready to play football, and the speed of the game, it just keeps getting faster, and everybody keeps getting stronger. So it makes me feel good knowing that there's an organization like yourself constantly focused on the protection and the right equipment.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that the majority of the football playing world is actually those youth players or high school players, while the majority of the attention is focused on your elite college or NFL player. We're designing and incorporating technologies that are utilized by the broad football community. So everyone from a youth player like your son to, elite athletes, right? And so that's something that's important to us, is making sure that, technologies aren't unattainable for the broad market, and that we're incorporating all of those opportunities into, someone just starting out in the game.
No, that's amazing, and a good point, right? There's you're certainly based in the right state for football, Erin. No doubt about it.
You Texan here.
Yeah. So Emily, your work on the Barry Sanders Monument was a huge success. How did you approach that entire process?
Yeah, so from the time we selected an artist to the time we unveiled it was about 18 months, but it's something that we had been talking about for a very long time and was probably long overdue. So this statue, Monument to Barry, was the first to any former Lions player or coach at Ford Field in our club's history. So we talked with a number of very talented and respected studios who are capable of creating the monument. We ultimately selected the studio Rotblatt Omrani, and they came out to our final game of the 2022 season, home season, 21. and they photographed Barry. They spent some time, sort of getting to know him and his personality, went back to the studio and began the process. We sourced original cleats, uniform pieces, helmets, in addition to their using, tons of different action photos. I think we provided them with a few hundred from his career to look at. And over the course of, about 12 months, put together an unbelievable representation of his, iconic sort of juking pose. And it was an incredible ceremony. We had about 300 people there, members of his family, those that had supported him in his football playing career from high school through Oklahoma State. And of course, the Lions. Head coach Wayne Fonts, one of Barry's former coaches, even joined us. So it was really a tremendously fulfilling experience personally and professionally. And for everyone in the Detroit Lions organization to be a part of. Barry is a really amazing human being and somebody who transcends generations. He gave Detroit and Lions fans a hero. So to be part of immortalizing him in the city that, I grew up in, is really, really special. It was special for him, and I'm honored to have been a part of it.
Yeah, well, that's super cool and really great insight. I don't think people understand, how detailed that process is to be able to do that. And I've certainly seen statues go up where I don't think they put that kind of detail in it.
Right.
The likenesses are not the same. So that's really cool.
Yeah, he was a huge responsibility, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't scary at times to not want to mess it up. But I'm happy with the finished product, and every game day I walk by, or when I drive by, even leaving work at night, and I see a line of people 365 days a year waiting to take a photo with it. It's heartwarming.
Well, there's no question he's an icon and certainly an argument. He was the greatest ever. I remember it back then. It was the Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders argument all the time. Right?
Oh, yeah. It
was always a fun debate, very different running backs and both great running backs.
He's also a great person and human, and Emily gets to work really closely with him, which is, can speak to that, but he's just awesome. And so it's been fun hearing from my sister the pride that she had in this project. And I think that was also, her personal commitment to make sure that, the vision was brought to life because, she thinks so highly of Barry too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, pretty amazing to grow up in the city and get to work with your icon and build a statue with him. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must feel like.
Yep.
So Erin, Riddell is partnered with NFL Play Football Initiative and other grassroots programs. Can you tell us how important that is to your overall brand strategy?
Yeah, I think, you touched on some of the issues surrounding the game, and also, speaking positively, there's a lot of momentum around the game of football, particularly coming out of the pandemic, more opportunities for women and girls to play, more enthusiasm around, starting out in the game. And so, working with the NFL around its football development initiatives, getting more kids playing, as well as working with USA Football, particularly around educational type initiatives with a kind of a three-pronged approach, targeting the athletes, targeting their parents, and then targeting the coaches with, unique messages, right? And I think that's been something that over my tenure and over the last decade or so at Riddell, we've really been focused on making sure we're talking to each of the key stakeholders that has a decision in whether athletes play the game of football. And so, helping, get athletes on the field and entry points in the game and learning the skills and development there, getting parents on the field to learn what it takes to practice, and then coaches from a curriculum and certification standpoint. There's just so much more being done in that area. So not only are we, doing our part, but we're also helping to kind of amplify those key points that the game has never been better. And there's many opportunities to get involved with football.
And from the Lions standpoint, I mean, just interject here and say that's how, something that we are so appreciative of with the Detroit Lions that Riddell does and has been blazing trails, for future generations of football players. Some of the three probably main collaboration points between the Lions and Riddell and my sister and I are, on-field uniforms, on-field wearables, collectibles, the collectible lines, and then, the youth football components and their support of that, which is tremendously important to us. We have one of the best football education divisions in the league. And, it's incredibly high on our priority list to support and get kids playing football, whether that's flag or tackle, boys or girls. Fostering a love of football is the key to the health of the sport, and the key to fandom, really. Not everyone, of course, stating the obvious, is going to go on to have a high-profile college or professional career, but Pop Warner through middle school, even high school football, that is a gateway to fandom and for everybody. And, making sure that the game is safe through the advancement in equipment and also education that they spearhead, and we try to support at every turn is essential to football as a whole. So we're grateful to them for their leadership there.
Well, I think that's great insights too, and I think football is a complicated sport, right? For people that have never watched it before, and there's probably a lot of misinformation out there sometimes, as well as in regards to how many people actually get hurt and the right way to tackle and all those things that are super important. I kind of feel like y'all are living the dream. I mean, you grew up as sports fans, you're both super engaged in football, and you get to work together. That's pretty awesome. So, Emily, we did a Brand Innovators event, I think, as y'all know, leading up to the NFL draft.
Yep.
I got to go. The energy in the city was palpable. It was really pretty incredible. I'm sure you're still getting the positive aftershocks from that, but how much were you involved with the city and the NFL leading up to that?
Yeah, I was very involved. I was part of the local organizing committee. I co-chaired the marketing subcommittee with Stan Smith from Visit Detroit. We formed our local committee 18 months, 24 months out. We're meeting monthly and then eventually bi-weekly, talking about everything from safety and security through communications, through a social media sort of war room, if you will, and satellite events, everything, because we knew all of these components were going to work together to lead to a successful event, which it certainly was. But one of, I think, our biggest challenges was making sure that the league understood us when we said Detroit shows up. Like, you've got to be prepared. This is a town that loves football, loves their Lions, and also is never going to let you down when it comes to an opportunity to show the rest of the world what we're made of and the way that we, like I said, show up. So it was absolutely exceeded our expectations in terms of the weekend overall. Just incredible, a lot of work, incredible collaboration between all sorts of different entities, the Lions, the NFL, the Detroit Police Department, Visit Detroit, the Detroit Sports Commission, the Downtown Detroit Partnership, who created all sorts of different satellite events throughout the vicinity of the footprint. So those that couldn't get into the official footprint still had an unbelievable time watching the draft and taking in activities. So really had been a long time since the city hosted an event of that magnitude, probably the Super Bowl in 2006, maybe the Final Four. We're looking forward to welcoming the Final Four back to Detroit in 2027. So lots of great stories, an incredible amount of work and effort. But we're really proud of the way that Detroit showed up. And lastly, I think that it wouldn't have been as successful as it was without this rabid fandom and excitement surrounding the Detroit Lions. And we're really proud of that and the team that we've built, the culture that we've built, and the way that our fans and the football world have responded to it.
Well, it was definitely a sight to see, no question about it. And like I said, the energy just in Detroit in general, I think that was the first time I'd really gone up there and spent that kind of time in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And, was amazed by it. It actually what galvanized us to do the Pistons event, a couple weeks later. And went to the Texas-Michigan game, which was pretty awesome to go to the big house and watch that as well. So Erin, I'm curious, how Riddell looks at, social media marketing and stuff like that, and how you've seen, over the years, social media marketing change sports marketing.
Yeah. So Riddell is interesting because while we're very consumer facing and very well known for our role in the game of football, right, which your typical fan and football participant would be aware of, much of our marketing is actually geared towards more of like a B2B audience. So we're selling often to the decision maker at a high school, so an administrator or coach or at the youth level, like a, youth parent or administrator. But then as you go up in the levels, equipment managers at college and NFL. And so I guess the point is our stakeholders vary, but they're not always consumer facing. I think since I've joined Riddell and there's certainly more awareness around head protection and the game of football, we've had to turn our focus to also include a more consumer facing audience. So that means marketing towards the athletes themselves or parents who are also decision makers or have a say in that sphere of influence. I think no better way to reach the athlete themselves in that core demographic of 13 to 17 or something like that is going directly to reach them via social media where they are. And the statistics show that. And so we have really ramped up our focus on engaging content that not only focuses on those other stakeholders or decision makers, but really looks through the lens of what do the athletes want to see. And you'll find that in incorporating a new TikTok strategy as well as Instagram, where we know that, the majority of our followers in those spaces are the athletes themselves. I think another example would actually be what we did in Detroit around the draft, where we actually sent team members to do kind of person on the street type content that would be geared more towards that general fan or more consumer facing audience that might purchase a collectible helmet. The Lions just launched a new, uniform concept, right? And so we brought helmets around, we asked people questions, and that's the type of posting that we wouldn't have normally done 10 years ago, where we were super focused on just those institutional purchasers. Now we're just casting such a large net, and I think that just underscores the power of social media.
Well, thanks for sharing that. This is really a question for both of y'all, but Emily, I guess I'll start with you. As female leaders in a typically male-dominated sport like football, what advice would you give to women that want to break through and get involved in the sport?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and my answer is typically that my advice would be the same for both men and women aspiring to be in this career. It's certainly something to celebrate how far football has come, and how many women are now in roles that were previously only held by men: coaches, officials, front office people, in you name it, and then players in women's tackle and women's flag, which is really seen such an explosion. That's tremendous to see. But I try and have always tried in my career since I was in the NBA to make my gender a non-topic. I don't walk into a room and see myself as a woman. In a room of men, I see myself as a sports marketing leader, somebody who has good ideas and wants to collaborate, and I try not to focus on it. And I think that that's my greatest piece of advice. We're past that. These are the types of jobs that can be held by anyone with the passion, the experience, and the fire. And there's far more important, intangible things to have if you want to have a career in sports than thinking about that.
Erin, any thoughts from you?
I think that's great advice, and I do think that I'm pleased to see us moving beyond that. I guess I would also just say, know your stuff. Don't give people a reason to critique you, poke holes in anything you're doing. Know your stuff. Be passionate about what you're doing, which you are if you find yourself in that position, and look for opportunities to learn more, to gain more responsibility, to do your networking. And the final thing is really celebrate other women in the space, right? And build people up, because I think that not everyone has that confidence or sees it that way. So let's also use it as an opportunity to really celebrate, each other, like as in my sister and I, or others that are also blazing trails, because I think with more and more, you really need to just kind of honor the milestone. But hopefully, a few years from now will be less of a thing too.
Great insights. I love the know your stuff, by the way. That was one of the things my father instilled in me early, is in all business, just know your stuff, right? Know your business. And I think that's important across for everybody across all industries. So, Emily, what are some of the biggest trends you see shaping the future of sports marketing today?
I would say technology, definitely. And I think that's been something, we've seen for a while, but certainly AI, million dollar question, I think, for, really the world, but certainly in sports, we have, developed a task force to sort of try to see around the corner and how that's going to change our business and the fan experience. So definitely technology. Some of it is scary and some of it we've harnessed to our advantage. I talked a little bit about the NFT wristbands that we've been utilizing and how that's, catapulted the game day atmosphere from, 0 to 60 really since last season. Facial recognition and the ability now to walk into a concession stand, and when you do, swipe your card, take whatever you want from the coolers and the shelves and walk out, and we'll charge you for what it is that you took. That's creating an incredible amount of throughput and speed of service, which again benefits the fan experience. So all of these things, 3D map technology to allow people to plan out their game day from driveway to driveway. So technology has really opened up a lot of additional pathways to change the fan experience and allow us to communicate with our fans more frequently, more personally, and mostly all positive.
That's great. Yeah, AI is definitely having an impact on every aspect of the world. There's
Certainly.
no doubt about it. I've been playing around with that Google LM notebook, and it just creates these podcasts.
Oh yeah.
Which is really pretty wild.
Yep.
Listening to it. So, so Erin, as sports become more global and football is becoming more global, how does Riddell get involved with that? How do you guys do that, and how does that impact your marketing?
Yeah, that's something I've kind of taken on as a personal charge here, is taking Riddell global beyond looking at it as a sales strategy and more holistically as a brand strategy abroad. I think there are a couple of points to make there. I think one, just in general, we know the game of football is growing in interest abroad, and thanks to our partners at the NFL, with them hosting games in other markets, and then also clubs getting rights allocated to them too in different markets. I think that is helping aid the fandom abroad. But I think following in under that is also providing a catalyst for existing football playing populations to get more involved, and for us to prioritize making sure that they have, the best equipment and leveling the playing field a bit, to overcome, whatever barriers might be in our way to get that gear to them. I think the other thing is the game of football is entering the Olympics, albeit in not the tackle football form, but in the flag football form. So what does Riddell do to kind of make sure we get our rightful share of voice in that conversation also? And so looking at, entering that marketplace also, because there's less barriers to participation when you're talking about flag football, right? As compared to tackle. But we also think oftentimes flag participation then as a gateway to tackle football. And so as we're doing, kind of laying the groundwork to ensure we can get that equipment where it's in demand, help foster the fandom and participation through the flag entity. And LA 28 is going to be an awesome moment for football. We're really excited about it. And even though our core business is tackle, we always say football is football, and we're a football company. And so we're definitely going to be following kind of the investment that the NFL is making to enrich the football participation opportunity abroad.
Well, super excited for those Olympics. I know they're a couple of years out, but that is going to be amazing to see football there. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been amazing to have both of you on. Clearly, thought leaders and continuing to grow in the space. Also, really appreciate y'all both being so supportive of the Brand Innovators community. We really appreciate the support, and as you know, we do plenty of things in Dallas, Erin, and we're going to be doing more in Detroit. We actually did our first Final Four in Phoenix last year. It's home field for me this year in San Antonio, so we'll certainly be doing stuff in Dallas and Detroit as those cities have Final Four as well. So really appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trey.
Mhm.
Thanks, sis.